It's a God thing. Come on, it's a God thing. It's a God thing. Let the whole world know Jesus is real. He's real. It's a God thing. It's a God thing. Share your testimony. Hallelujah.
Make it famous.
Welcome to another episode of It's a God Thing, where we're making Jesus famous by sharing testimonies and stories about the power of a changed life and the power of God. On today's show, we have my dear friend, Paige McBride, and she's going to share with you how she was totally transformed by the Lord. And Paige, thank you so much for coming.
Of course.
Thank you for sharing your story. I remember when I first met you and your sister, your whole family, beautiful family that you have, and I heard you girls' testimonies. I was so undone. When I asked you what should I name and title this episode, you said, Relentless Love. Can you tell us why? Tell us from the very beginning where you started as a child, how you grew up, and what led you to that.
Sure. So I grew up in a Christian home, and I always loved the Lord. I had a deep love in my heart for the Lord at a young age. I didn't know that He spoke to me, but I just had a relationship with Him. And as I grew up, loved the Lord, went to church. My parents split up probably when I was in 6th grade, and we just kind of stopped going to the church and didn't really get involved. And I still loved the Lord, but I wasn't, in church. I would go to youth occasionally and stuff like that, but no, I didn't really do the church thing after that. So I was just, in high school, I had cheerleading friends. I had my life. I didn't really continue in a deep relationship with the Lord. After high school, before college, there was a period where I just kind of, everything that I had known was shaken. So, my friends, my boyfriend, my cheerleading, everything I had was shaken. And then I started kind of drinking and partying a little, hanging out with the wrong people. I'd never done that before, and I wasn't happy. I had started college maybe 2 days, and I was just like, I gotta get out of here. I can't keep living like this. So I called my sister. She was living in Kansas City. I was in Arkansas, and I was just like, hey, I need to get out of here. Can I come live with you? And so she said yes, and I moved in with her. The day after I moved in with her, I went to a Planned Parenthood and found out that I was pregnant.
Oh,
so
wow.
I went by myself. It was my first day in Kansas City. I was so scared, but the second the lady showed me the test, she's like, you're pregnant. I just broke down. I was just weeping and weeping.
And how old were you at this time?
I was 18.
18 years old and pregnant.
Yeah, in a new city. I didn't really have anyone. But I went to...
and you had already broken up with the baby's father.
Yeah.
So you were no longer in a relationship.
No, that had ended before it ended months before, I guess. And so then I went to like a baby store, and I went to the prayer room, IHOP KC prayer room. But the Lord, I just remember He had spoken to me in my spirit that this child was a gift. He was like, this is a gift. And so I...
Did abortion not at all at any time?
Before, there's fear, but the second I knew I was
just
pregnant,
wondering, what does an 18-year-old think of? You've currently just left your life.
Yeah.
You go move somewhere else, and then here you are, you find out, oh my gosh, I'm going to have a baby.
Yeah, super scary. And of course, the option, you think about it, but the second I knew I was pregnant, this was my baby.
Great.
Like, I would never have been able to go through with that.
Well, that was very brave to even choose that
at 18
Lord. Years old.
Even just Him telling me this is a gift, and it's not something, it's a good thing. And so I lived in Kansas City. I was severely depressed. I struggled with severe depression for years. Ended up in a relationship with a man, moved in with him, moved out of my sister's house, and, still depressed, but I had the baby. She was probably like a month old, and I was still just so unhappy, and I was just numb to life, and just depressed, and I knew I had to get out of there. So one weekend, I just left. I packed all of our stuff, and I was living out of my car for a couple weeks, me and Emma.
Oh,
She
wow.
was a month old, but I was sleeping at my sister's. My dad found a house for me in Arkansas, so I moved back there and started working with my little sister who has cerebral palsy, but I was working like 80 hours a week. She was living with me half the time. I had a newborn baby. I had started full-time school.
Right.
And so I just had...
So I know that you had struggles with drugs and stuff. Now, was this while you were pregnant?
That wasn't, no.
Or
no,
it
none of
kind
that
of
happened yet.
That led
So
you
this
to...
was where I was here. I was just so depressed. I mean, I was, working, and I just felt so overwhelmed.
Right.
And I had no escape. And that was when I kind of started small, just kind of smoking
Social,
weed.
right,
Just in my
kind of-
home. It was just hanging out with
okay.
friends, and it was the first. I remember it was the first moment of just like an escape. Like I just had just a break from life, from reality. And it was
Right.
just that escape. And that became more and more, and it grew from weed to pills, and just over, the next months, I mean, I just became consumed in it, because it was like a little taste was nice, and I was like, well, I want more and more. And so it went to, doing coke and ecstasy and anything I could get my hands on, and going to
Wow.
shows. And then after a while, I ended up strung out on meth. So within just like a year, it was like from never doing a drug to just being obsessed and indulging in this. And it was all I knew, and it was all I wanted, and it was all I needed. It was just getting that next fix.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you were, was there like a certain time that you did that, when you were like drugged like almost every day, all the time?
That was my sole purpose in life. It turned into, how can I get my next fix? How can I get
Wow.
this? Like, what can I do? How can I, scrounge up some money or make some money? Like, I was selling drugs. I had, our drug dealers living in our house. It was a
Wow.
mess. It was a mess.
And your baby at this time, did you have any help with the baby?
She
The
was
baby
living
was
with
just
me.
still...
She would go to her dad's but she lived with me, and it didn't start out hardcore, but it just escalated so
Right,
quickly.
right.
And
Do you feel you started doing pot just because it kind of, this kind of numbs it a little bit and it feels good? But I'm assuming that at one point, that's not good enough.
yeah, well,
And
it's like,
you go
hey,
from the next thing.
Yeah.
And before you knew it, you were totally addicted to drugs.
Yeah, and meth was the one thing I knew I would never do. Like, that was
Wow.
nasty, that was skanky, that wasn't my type of drug.
Now, in this period of your time where you're not, did you feel like you were addicted to drugs, or, oh, this is just something that I'm doing, I can stop anytime if I want to?
I don't know if I really thought of it. I mean, I knew I was trapped.
Okay.
I knew I was trapped, because I remember having different encounters where I just felt like I was trapped and I wanted to get away. And so just in my brief moment of sobriety, or when I was, high or whatever, I would have an encounter. I'm like, I'm not happy. Like, I want to get out of this, and I don't want to do it
Did you ever
anymore.
like pray to God at that point? Because you said...
A couple times.
Okay.
I did. I remember I had this one scary, when I was high, and it was there was a fear. And I saw myself in a cycle, and it was like, I didn't know I was trapped, and then I would remember I was trapped, and then I would try to get out of what I was in,
Right.
but then I would just end back up in it, and it was just, I just felt helpless, and it was like this cycle. I couldn't get away from it. And that was just one night, and I just, maybe prayed to the Lord, but I wasn't seeking the Lord.
Right.
No, not at all.
When was that pivotal time? What happened in your life that you finally said, okay, enough is enough. This is a problem. This is an issue in my life. I'm sure that maybe you had thoughts of, I'm not being a good mother right now. What when did that happen? And when was that transformation? Did you get help?
So what happened was I was super strung out one night, and it was a night before Christmas Eve or the day before that. Christmas has always been a huge thing to our family. We're a family of 7 kids. You know, we've always done it together. It's always been a big deal. But I had got really strung out one night, and Christmas Day, I don't even remember that day. Like, I was blacked out. I wasn't even conscious. I remember awaking I was in my bathroom at my house, and I hear this pounding on my door, and I'm coming into consciousness, and I'm like, what's going on? And it's my mom and my brother at my door, and they're like, where's Emma? Where's Emma? What's going on? And I was just out of it. I was like, I don't know. And then they left, and she was at her dad's, but they took me to a coffee shop, I think, the next day. My brother and my mom and sister, and my brother was like, hey, I'm taking Emma with me, him and his wife. He's like, we're taking Emma to Kansas City with us. He's like, I would like for you to go, but we're taking her regardless. And I just broke down. I was just weeping. I was like, I want to go. I was like, I want to go. I want to get out of here. And it was my escape. And so they took Emma that night, and I stayed to kind of pack. And then I still went back to meth that night. I mean, that within those next few days, I was still doing drugs and indulging, and I didn't really want to go back. I knew I needed to go back and I should go back, but when you're in it, it's hard to get out, and that's what you want to do.
Because that's the hard stuff.
Yeah.
So.
And so then one night there was this crazy encounter. This one girl who was trying to kill me and my sister. She came banging our door down and threatening to kill us and texting us saying, I'm going to kill you, I'm going to murder you. I know where you are, I know where your car is. And me and my sister were so freaked out. So we went to my mom's house, and we were in her bathroom, and on her bathroom wall there was a scripture, Psalms 118. It was real long. And we just began reading it, and everything that it said, it was the faithful love of the Lord endures forever. And it just said that over and over. It said, your enemy tried to kill you. They swarmed you like bees, but I did not let you die. I lifted you with my strong right arm so that you may proclaim the goodness of the Lord.
Wow.
And I mean, everything. And we just began weeping, and we told my mom, and we were like, we got to get out of here. So she took us to Kansas City that night, and that's when I began my journey with the Lord. I went to Kansas City to live with my brother and sister and start that journey, which is a whole another journey. Right. It wasn't like I moved there and I was immediately set free. I still had my struggles.
Good. So I want you to talk about that. So this is some people get radically changed and saved, and the next day they're like totally different people. And sometimes with other people, it's a process.
Yeah.
Okay. So this is what I want to touch on, that because I want someone who might be in your same shoes where you were to understand the process. I think it's so important that people have a how-to.
Yeah.
Sometimes they want to get out and they just don't know how. So what was your process like? You went to Kansas City, you recommitted your life to the Lord, right? And you still had your up and downs. You still had your moments of
I
you
still
fell
very
again.
weak. I still had all my
And this
issues.
is why you continue to call it. This is like relentless love, because I remember us talking and you're telling me, I did it, I repented, and I will go back. And I will go back. And at that point, now you know, okay, there's a problem. There's a problem because it was so hard for you to remove yourself, to like totally just get set free. But then something did happen, and you finally, because you've been free from drugs for years now, this is what you're here today. But talk about the process and talk about the struggles and when you finally got your freedom.
Yeah. So when I moved to Kansas City, I was living with my brother and his sister. They weren't believers. We didn't go to church. So I was just living with them and working, and I would journal to the Lord and I would pray and read my Bible, but my flesh was crying out. I didn't know how to live a life without drugs. I didn't know how to enjoy life. I literally would be thinking, how do people live life? Like, how do they not do drugs and have fun? Because I mean, I would do drugs before anything, before going out, just sitting at home. I mean, whatever, they consumed me and shows. And I didn't understand how to live life. And I remember crying out to the Lord and thinking, Lord, this desire is never going to go from me. I will always want these drugs. And that's how I totally felt that, because for months and months, I mean, it was just this longing. And my sister and everyone I knew was still back home doing drugs. And I was just here trying to, get clean and not do them. But I wasn't fully walking with the Lord because I didn't know how to.
Right.
And so I would journal, and over the years, I ended up starting to smoke weed again because it was an opportunity, and I had it at hand. And even when I was smoking, I remember the first time I did, I hated it. And I hated the feeling, and I just felt fear, and I hated it, but I kept doing it, and I couldn't.
You came to the point where you realized, okay, this is a problem, so you want to get out of it, you can. How did you get out of it?
So for years, that went on for years, and I think that I kept struggling and kept going back, but what I would do is when I would struggle, I would hide in my shame. And so I would sin, and then I wouldn't talk to the Lord because I would be so ashamed, and I would just hide in my sin. And then I would want to go to him once I was better, once I stopped doing it, or once I felt like I had punished myself enough. And it wasn't until I realized that the Lord is asking us to run to him in our weakness. He doesn't say, get cleaned up and then come to me. He says, hey, when you're struggling with this, you don't need to hide it from me. I see it. How about you run to me in your brokenness, and let me love you, and let me, give you the grace and the strength. Because he did. And I mean, so many different seasons I kept going back, but he would always bring me back out of it. He would always help me when I would ask him. But it wasn't until I learned to run to him, as well as when the Lord moved me here in 2016, my sister always told me, my older sister always told me when I was trying to seek the Lord, she's like, you need community and you need church. I said, no, I only need the Lord. I don't need anyone else. I don't need anyone else. I just need the Lord. And when I moved here in 2016, I found RCC, and that was when I got involved in the church and the women's meeting, and just having that constant accountability and reminder of why, of who the Lord is, every Sunday. Like, it's so important to have that accountability. It's so important to be fed and to fill yourself and with his word and just in his time. And after that was where I found true freedom. And I had never gone more than months at a time without smoking weed, even after the Lord set me free. But it wasn't until I moved here where he taught me to be steadfast, and he taught me to seek him, and he taught me to have accountability in my life. And so
that's so good. So community, other people in your life, people to keep you accountable. We all struggle. You know, people have all kinds of struggles. But I remember you had said something so powerfully to me one day, and it was when you finally realized that God loved you so much, even in the struggle, and that throughout your whole life, you continue to see the hand of God chasing you. Like God just kept pursuing you and pursuing you, and it didn't matter how many times you fell. And we see that, and sometimes as humans, our flesh, we're like, okay, that's enough, like I'm done, But God is not like that. God didn't stop until you finally got your freedom. And then his love totally changed it. And just coming to him.
Because it was even in the midst of my sin and my brokenness, when I would be sinning and I would get myself into this impossible situation where I couldn't get out and I needed help, whether that be finances or whatever I was doing that caused me this trouble, and I couldn't get out. And the Lord still said, hey, I love you and I'm going to provide a way out. Even though I was sinning and I was not following him, he still said, I still love you and I'm still going to save you every time. It's not like, bam, you're saved. It's not like you're free and you're never going to struggle. You're still going to have issues, but he's still going to set you free. It's a journey of freedom. You're not free all at once, but there's so many different areas in your life and in your own heart that he wants you to be free
Right.
in every area. And that's what I realized he was doing in my long journey. It took so long, but every season he still grew me and he still taught me, and I didn't realize it. I was thinking, I'm not saved, or, I'm a failure. But no, I didn't see was, oh, he's growing me and he's teaching me and he's giving me, through the verse, you can rejoice when you run into problems and trials, because you know that the Lord is strengthening your endurance and your perseverance. It's so true. I've never grown more in my life than in those hard, trying struggles that I was in, and he brought me out. That's what showed me, Lord, you're faithful. Even when I'm not, you're still faithful. Over the years and years and years, you've never let me down, ever.
That's so good.
Yeah.
Look into your camera and share that. Someone who is struggling with drugs right now, and they feel like they can't get out. No matter what they do, they can't.
Yeah. So I've been there, and I know how hopeless that it can seem, or how hopeless it seems that you'll never get free and you'll never have that freedom. But what I can say to you is to seek the Lord above all else. Even when you fall, run to him and say, Lord, I've fallen again. Lord, I'm weak. Help me to be strong. Give me the strength. And he will. If you aren't in community, I encourage you to get into community or get into church, and let the love of the Lord fill you in all that you do, and all that, as you're trying to lay down drugs or addiction or whatever the addiction is, you need to pick up the word, and you need to start filling yourself with who the Lord is as you've let go of this thing that you've been in bondage to. You need to pick up the Lord.
Amen. Well,
and he will set you free.
Thank you so much for coming.
Course.
Thank you for so much for sharing.
Of course.
And there you have it, folks. Just another transformed life by the power of Jesus Christ. God bless.
Amen.